Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for coming back, and welcome to the third session of today's conference. I'm Fabian, Saavedra-Lara, working for medienwerk.nrw, and I'd like to give a warm welcome to Serge Laurent. Thanks for being here, Serge. Serge is a curator at Centre Pompidou in Paris, and he will do a presentation today about his curatorial practice there at Centre Pompidou. And I have the pleasure to introduce you shortly, a short CV. Serge Laurent initiated his career as assistant to the artistic director of Fondation Cartier, a foundation for contemporary art, as you all know. He organized numerous art exhibitions and was the program director of the performing arts section there. He developed the Soirée Nomade series, which presented various forms and facets of performative art, so between dance, lecture, concert, video, performance, fashion show, and design at the Art Foundation in Paris. From 1997 to 2002, you were the program director at the art center Le Consortium in Dijon.
Not exactly.
Okay, so please correct me. So it was just what you said.
No, I was responsible for...
So, okay.
There is two curators, for a consortium in Dijon, and in fact I was responsible for the performing arts side of the program.
Okay, so please forgive me. And to continue, you established the festival as well, Nouvelle Scène.
Yes.
Since 1999, you are a curator for performing arts at Centre Pompidou in Paris. Welcome, Serge Laurent. Thanks for being here. It's a pleasure. So thank you.
Merci.
You are going to talk about a series which is entitled Les Spectacles Vivants. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit about this program and what it is about, and about the history and the development of this project. So what does it consist of? So maybe you could elaborate.
Okay, so Les Spectacles Vivants, in fact, it's a program, I started at Pompidou, but of course, the story didn't become like this, It's a parcours, it's a professional path which brought me to Pompidou Center, but it started previously with, as you said, other experiences. Basically, Les Spectacles Vivants, it's a regular program of performing arts. I'm not specialized in a specific field, so it's dance, music, and theater. And of course, since I program in a house like Pompidou, which is basically for most of people the National Museum of Modern Art in France, and temporary exhibitions, it's impossible, to think about a program without to be aware about what's going on in the context. So Les Spectacles Vivants is, just as I said, a program based on regular stage performances, but it's also, a strong connection with other disciplines. And I was very interested by your talks today about these, let's say, links between disciplines, and does it make sense nowadays to talk about disciplines and so on. So my duty there is, let's say, to share my attention on creation, contemporary creation, with an audience, and it takes place in a theater, and I'm going to show you that with the images, but not only, since the Centre Pompidou has such a potential in terms of facilities. You can think about various shapes and various ways of showing performing arts. In the gallery, in the theater, and we had experiences with a lot of performers, in various spaces like the big tube, you have to get up the center, or even the parking lot, or even with Boris Charmatz for a a piece called Théâtre et les Visions in a storage place. So, you know, we can investigate, even if now, you know, it's more and more difficult with the security things, you know, which are very, very strong with public institutions, especially with what we call Vigipirate, you know, in France. So you have to be very, very, it's a lot of negotiation, you know, but you know, we are 1,000 people working there. So you have to deal with a lot of people when you want to do something, but we do things, so it's okay. So maybe the best, yes, you wanted to ask me another question, I think, no?
Yeah, you can also start. I would like to, maybe 2 short questions before we get into your presentation. So, Serge, you started as a curator in the visual arts field and were trained in the visual arts field. And I would like to know, how did it come about that you now work in the field of performing arts? So what's your particular interest in that, or what is your trajectory, and how did it come about? So
it's not a very original question, but it's nice to answer, you know.
We have to do it today.
No, the point is that, in fact, you know, as you said, I had a very classical training. Yeah? I was student at the Louvre School, you know, and just for the little story, you know, my major at Louvre School was Egyptian archaeology. So I really wanted to be an Egyptologist till the age of 25, about. And after a while, you know, I got a bit tired about dealing with let's say, artistic remains and dead people, you know, so I was so attracted also by the present days, and let's say I like to go in clubs and listen to music and so on. So I had an experience in the United States in a small museum in the middle of nowhere in Virginia, you know. I was supposed there to work on their Egyptian collection, which was very, very small, and after 1 month, you know, I didn't have any more work to do, so there was this exhibition by an artist, maybe you know, Keith Saunier, and neon artist, and for the first time of my life, I was exposed to a living artist, you know, and it's quite a long time ago, not that young, but there was really weird people in the gallery, you know, they called performers, you know, and these people, you know, were doing crazy and even silly things for me, you know, in the gallery. So it was already this type of intervention, you know, in museums where the exhibition itself is not enough, especially for the vernissage. So, in fact, you know, they invited these people, and at that time I was really struck by all this ceremony, you know, and when I get back to France, they were looking at Fondation Cartier for an intern, and I said, maybe I should try. So I went to Fondation Cartier, I met with the director, and I said, I'm an Egyptologist, but I really want to know more about contemporary art. And after 3 months, which is a bit crazy, she asked me to co-curate with her an exhibition about Andy Warhol, and especially on the factory years. And this was in 91, I think, if I remember. And without knowing it, I was approaching, you know, a multidisciplinary thing, because at the factory, you all know that there was very, very various kind of artists, you know, revolving around Andy Warhol. And my main duty, you know, which was again quite crazy, was to make a Velvet Underground reunion. So I went to the States to meet all the actors of the factory and the 4 of the band, and they said yes. So finally we had this Velvet Underground concert in the very chic garden of the Fondation, and after such a success, let's say, I thought I was ready to go back to Egyptian archaeology at that time, and they said, no, you have to stay with us, and I became a contemporary art curator. So I started with exhibition. It's a crazy story, but I make it short. Finally I worked with Marie-Claude Beau. She was the director of the foundation, and Hervé Chandès, who's still the director. And they asked me to work on various exhibitions, like one which was called Two French, which was a selection of French artists for Hong Kong and Japan, and so on and so on and so on. And after 4 years, I was a bit tired of it. And Marie-Claude Beau said, Serge, you should think about a program because the foundation was moving to Paris. We were in the suburb of Paris. It was a big castle. It was a castle with a beautiful garden, park with artist residencies. And in Boulevard Raspail in Paris, you know, in the new creation of Jean Nouvel, we were just a big gallery, no more residences and so on. But Marie-Claude Beau didn't want us to be just a gallery. She wanted us to be something more. And she said, why don't you think, Serge, about a program, let's say, around music, because of the Velvet Story. And I said to her, yes, okay. But you know, there is a lot of things we should maybe investigate in. And she said, tell me what? And I said, but you know, we can try to go to dance, theater, and so on. And she said, do you know anything about that? And I said, no, but we should try. And we tried, and we made it.
Okay, so great. I would suggest that you go on with your presentation. And yeah, we continue with the Q&A afterwards, so thanks.
So just to tell you that, in fact, you know, I wasn't trained as a curator, but more like a person, you know, involved with artists and trying to share his experiences with an audience. So it's the reason why I usually don't, let's say, conceptualize the work, because what I'm telling you now, if tomorrow I meet with other artists, you know, I'm sure that my thinking about my involvement can move to not to something else, but it's always moving. So just to finish with the story, since I started this involvement with performing arts in a visual art institution, a lot of other places, I mean visual art institutions, you know, contacted me because they wanted to experiment besides the exhibition live arts experiences. So you mentioned the consortium in Dijon. They asked me to work on a festival, and the MACBA in Barcelona also asked me to do things. And for me, I became like a go-between for these institutions, between the visual art world and the performing art world, even if at the beginning I didn't know that much about performing arts, but I learned quite fast, so it became really a challenge for me and really a deep involvement. After these experiences, you know, I received a phone call, still for the little story, of Mr. Jean-Jacques Ayagon, who was the president of Pompidou and who became afterwards the Ministry of Culture. And he said, oh, we heard about your work. It seems that you started with visual arts, now you're really into performing arts. And at Pompidou, everything is very divided. Everybody is very specialized in one specific field, and we need someone to be able to run a program, and also to be able to start a dialogue with the curators of Pompidou in charge of the exhibitions, in order, you know, to have the feeling that Pompidou is not an accumulation of different activities, but there is also a vision about the engagement in contemporary art, of course. So, in fact, I was used to work in very informal spaces, because Fondation, even if it's very beautiful, very chic, you know, it was just galleries. So for the artists, you know, they had to to invent the way to work there. And in Dijon also it was a bit rock and roll, you know, the spaces, kind of a warehouse. And suddenly, you know, they asked me to come to Pompidou and they said, this is it, you have to deal with that. I was totally panicked, you know, because the relation you have with artists in informal spaces and in such a formal space is very, very different. So I said at that time, I'm okay to work with this, but you have to allow me also to work on the other spaces of the center, as I said. And at the beginning, you know, I didn't really want to work with this. So the center said, Mr. Laurent, you really have to deal with this. You know, it's a beautiful theater, you know, brand new theater. And me, I was working in the parking lot and was working around the theater, but it was a bit difficult. I even programmed things outside the center, so it was a big debate in hotels' rooms and things like this. But, you know, talking with the artist, I realized that when we talk about performing arts, you know, the theater is the main issue. It's very important, you know, because of course, you know, museums, you know, now, and I know what I'm talking about, you know, we invite a lot of performers, but most of them are coming from the theater. When I talk about dance, when I talk about theater and music, you know, and they are very keen to experience things in the galleries, but basically, you know, the main issue is the theater. And I realized that as a curator, because since I was working only in informal spaces, I thought it was the playground for them, but in fact not. This is a very, very important issue. Why? It's an important issue because all the conditions of creation are there, and also the money is there, because most of the time in the museums, you know, when we invite performers, you know, there is not really money for it. It's, you know, we just adaptate a piece of something, you know, for the gallery and we pay, but there is no means for production usually. And it's the reason why, Laurence, you know, I think your experience with that, with Xavier is very, very impressive, you know, for a visual arts institution. Because it's basically, even if we call that, it's my point of view, even if we call that an exhibition, it's still performing arts, you know, but you put the means for it to exist. So today I program a lot in this theater, but of course I had to think about, let's say, the policy of the theater, because there is no programming without very, very sharp knowledge of the context in where you work in. So the first context, you know, is the Centre Pompidou, you know it, of course. And as I said, you know, yeah, I try to connect and to combine, even, we will see some examples, different disciplines which exist inside the house. But also, you know, there is the context of Paris, which was very, very strong for me, you know, to think of. Because Paris is a big city, as you know, there is so many theaters, there is so many museums and art galleries and so on. So the idea was to be right in this context, not just to add something else, you know, but I really wanted to create, as we say in English, you know, a specific niche, which was able for the audience of Paris, you know, to discover, I hope, new type of works. And so there was two guidelines. The first one, as I said, was to promote works combining various mediums through collaborations between visual artists and performing artists. That was at the beginning. And also, as much as I could, you know, present artists which for me creates new way of writing. New way of writing in terms of dance, in terms of theater, and in terms, of course, of music. So I brought some examples. So this is an example which is very important for me. It's Gisèle Vienne. And watching performing arts, you know, the scenography for me is a very big issue because, as I said previously, it's a very interesting link between visual arts and performing arts. The art of scenography sometimes for me is really a piece of art, just like an installation. And it's the reason why with this striking work of Gisèle Vienne, which is in fact scenography and decor for a performance, I had the feeling talking with Gisèle that it could be a piece in itself. Maybe I don't know if you saw this piece. Yeah, it's a very well-known piece. And in fact, you know, we presented the piece, and after that, you know, with Gisèle, we decided to show it just like an installation. So on the occasion of an event, maybe you know, which under the name of Nuit Blanche in Paris, we decided to present this just like an exhibition, but in a theater. And I like the idea, you know, to mix proposal and to bring people in this ambiguity, you know, they don't know exactly where they are anymore. So we decided with Gisèle to present this, to make a loop, and we thought that people would get into the theater like in a gallery. We are very innocent still. They would get inside the theater like in a gallery. They would watch and live like in a gallery, you know. But we understood that they didn't live because there is a temporality with performing arts, especially in such a space like a theater, you know. So during the time running of the performance, we had to find a solution because there was a long line of people waiting because it's La Nuit Blanche. So with Gisèle, we decided just to turn on the light of the theater for people to leave, you know. And it's really interesting to see that the situation you show a work, you know, interferes a lot on people reaction and behavior. So after that, you know, I give you another example. So when I was talking about new way of writing, I wanted to show you this example of Marlène Freitas. Maybe some of you know her. And it's an artist I like to co-produce regularly because her way of writing dance is very specific. I would say that, you know, in France, and my colleagues mentioned that, you know, the postmodern dance influenced a lot the contemporary dance in France. And with this kind of writing, you know, you have really the feeling that it's a new way of writing dance. And it's the reason why I wanted to support this work. Also, you know, still the relation with scenography and visual arts, you know, there is this artist you probably know because I know Stefan is very faithful with her. It's Mette Invartsen. And in this case, you know, she wanted to make a piece for the stage, but she didn't want the performers to have the first role. In fact, the performers were just operators serving an installation which was basically visual. And for me, you know, it was very interesting to set a dialogue this way between a choreographer trying to set an installation during the time of a performance and some artists, you know, involved in installation in the visual art field. And it's what is interesting me because in fact, you know, if you open the door, the story of disciplines and so on, you know, is quite easy to avoid. It's just a matter of being open to have the possibility to be open enough to ask the artist what they want to do with what you can provide to them. This is another experience because, as I said previously, you know, what I try to do is really to set experiences with artists and sharing them with the audience. Of course, you know, Pompidou allows that still, so I keep on doing it. So this is an artist, you know, who's part of the collection of Centre Pompidou. It's Angela Bullock. And on the occasion of the new presentation of the collections of Pompidou, Angela was presenting a piece. And talking with her, you know, and we had these experiences before, of course, with Xavier Veillant and many others, you know, I said, we should try to do something on stage together. And she said, oh, you know, Serge, it's not really my job, you know, I'm basically a visual artist. And I said, are you sure we cannot try to do something? And finally, you know, she thought about her experience as a bass guitar player, and she decided to ask David Grubbs, you know, a musician, to make a concert. And for me, it was very, very important to have this artist on stage because people were rushing, you know, to the new presentation of the collection, you know, and I really wanted them through this type of invitation, you know, to be also invited in the theater, because sometimes we talk about the audience, but there is audiences, and most of the time they are very, very separated. And even at Pompidou, for example, you know, you have people rushing to exhibitions, people coming to the concert, and these crowds, you know, never crosses very rarely. And it's really incredible for me, not for you, but for me, that some people, sometimes they come to Pompidou and they don't even know there is a theater, because it's the museum which is really, really the main issue of the institution. So through this type of experiences, I hope the audience can be more conscious about what we try to do there, and also it's opening opportunities to the artist. For example, I have to be very honest with you. I don't think Angela Bullock will do it again, because she wasn't really satisfied of the result. But for me, it's very important, you know, we can, besides, let's say, the professional performing proposals, we do on stage with a very good network of co-producers all over Europe. We also are still able to make this type of experiences. She designed the avatars of the group, you know, and it was a bit clumsy, let's say. So this is another story. I don't want to be too long about this, but I don't know if you know about Valérie Belin. She's a photographer. She has now a very, very important, not important because it's not such a big one, but a very important anyway, exhibition with new portraits. And Valérie, you know, she used to make portraits series. So this, you have the series of the Michael Jacksons, but she has also the series of the bodybuilders, of the dancers, of the fashion models, and so on. And she made really a work based on series. And again, like with Angela, you know, since I really like the work, I said to Valérie, why should we should try something for the stage? And she said, oh, no way. But, you know, I insisted a lot, and finally we said, what can we do? Maybe a slideshow, but it's a bit flat, you know. Alors I said, yeah, but if we add live music with that, it will be maybe more. And she said, oh no, I cannot do that. And And after talking together, and it's what is really, really exciting, you know, we said, before doing photos, you know, you invite people, human beings in your studio. So why do we not try to do something with the models you use for photography in real? So we decided to bring all these people, you know, on stage. So the bodybuilder, the dancers, the fake Michael Jackson, and so on. And we wanted to set like a parade, you know, of these people. And again, you know, we realized that it was not working. And finally, we decided to duplicate various Michael Jacksons. And the idea was not just to show them like this, but, you know, we could see on stage a transformation, because the look-alike people usually in the regular life, they don't look like the character they want to be. And so we could see for 3 hours the entire process of transformation, of being a Michael Jackson and becoming again a regular person. And why did we think about 3 hours? In fact, we wanted more, but we couldn't in terms of, anyway, because we wanted that to last like an exhibition. Because again, you know, she's used to be presented in galleries, so this performance, we wanted it to be like an exhibition. So it's the reason why it lasted for 3 hours. And what is very interesting, again, it's that we made a movie of that. And the movie of the performance, you know, became, in a sense, you know, a video piece art. And in Malaga, because Centre Pompidou opened a space in Malaga, I showed this video in an exhibition we called Corps Simple, Simple Body. We transformed the title into Show Me Your Moves. And it was interesting to see how from a performance you can make a movie with the artist, of course, and that movie becomes a visual art piece. And we did the same thing with Jérôme Bel. I decided to show in Malaga Shirtology. Some of you know about this work. And we wanted to present it also on the wall, so we made a movie, and we presented as a video, and now it became a piece in itself. So it's very interesting to investigate with the artist, you know, in this type of reflection. A performance can become a piece of art, and you can reverse the démarche. After that, I can show you, yeah, this is it. So this is another experience. So I was talking about the stage, and now I'm going to talk about our experiences in the gallery. So this is a commissioned work. We proposed to two theater directors, Sophie Pérez and Xavier Boussiron. And Bernard Blisten, who was my director at that time, you know, decided to create an event called Nouveau Festival. Nouveau Festival because the idea was to combine again an exhibition with regular performances, but in the same space. So we had a lot of works presented in the main gallery downstairs we call Galerie Sud. And Bernard said to me, Serge, you have to think about people who can produce an object, and this object can also be used as the context for live events. And I thought about these people, and there was beautiful pieces in this first edition of the new festival, Zobernik for the general setting, a beautiful piece of Karsten Oller, and many others. And when the two artists, coming from the visual art field, proposed me a piece. We had a big debate between the curator and the programmer I am, because we were wondering, and I had the same dialogue at Fondation Cartier when I was interfering in the exhibitions. How can we present a scenography besides artworks without being too ambiguous about the status of the work? And this is really something which interests me. It's what is the status of the work, and how the context in which you present a piece gives status to a work. And finally, for other reasons, we decided to not present things together. And I said to Bernard, give me a gallery. And he gave me this one, and it's great. But it's very important, you know, also to understand. So Xavier Leroy is a very good example, and I will talk a little bit about it, because you, Laurence, you know, you gave the entire space. Us, you know, he was included in a group show. And for me, let me tell you, because we don't know each other, it's the first time we meet, you know, it was a very uncomfortable situation. Anyway, so because when you set performances, it's obvious what I say, but in terms of curatorial démarche, it's really complicated in terms of logistics and so on. Because in fact, you know, when you make an exhibition, you can deliver the work to the audience and that's it. But with the performing arts, you know, these living people, you know, they have needs a mere object or a piece of art doesn't have. They need to drink, they need to rehearse, they sweat, they need to pee, there is nowhere where to pee, and so on. So it's a real logistic, you know, and also they need to rehearse and prepare the space before the performance. And how you can have these people, you know, installing things, and since you present, you know, an exhibition which is month and month of work, you know, and you invite an audience to see people still working, it's not possible. So most of the time, you know, we have to separate things. So in this case, we are very close, but we had to be separate. But for the artist, the opportunity was absolutely great, because, you know, they could make this incredible mask, you know, Commedia dell'arte. People, when they got inside the gallery, you know, it was, again, you know, a contemporary artist, you know, with a big delirium about Commedia dell'arte. And in the back, you know, of the box, we had this little theater, and every day for 3 weeks, at a certain time of the day, we had a performance inside. And for us, it was very exciting, because we were very close to the exhibition. We were in the parcours of the exhibition, but not included in it. But it's already a dialogue, you know, which is interesting, because as part of the audience, you could see the Carsten Oller piece, and after you could be immersed in another contemporary, let's say, fantasy. Another experience is again with Gisèle Vienne, after the experience we had for La Nuit Blanche, you know. Again, for the Nouveau Festival, I could use this time the gallery, because now it was done. You know, Serge, you work in this gallery, and like this, you won't make interference with the artworks which are beside. So talking with Gisèle, you know these mannequins, they are always part of her performances. But it's just objects at the beginning, you know. They're part of the scenography. And we decided to make an installation with these fake bodies, you know, inside a gallery. And in front of them, she shot all the faces of the the mannequin to make this wall. And you see how, again, you know, from a starting point, which was scenographic gest, we brought the work to the level of a piece of art. After, you can criticize and think this or that about it, but it's a piece of art. And Giselle, you know, she's this type of artist, you know, playing the two games, I would say, performing arts and visual arts, since she made this installation here, which was presented at the Whitney Biennale. And it's again, you know, a Whitney Biennale, which is again, you know, a mannequin, but telling a story wrote by, le nom de, the writer she works so well with. You should know, okay. It's gonna come back. Anyway, so it's just to illustrate again what I was saying previously. And another experience, this is the same gallery, so you see how we change things. This time, you know, we wanted again to make a space where people can feel an experience inside, and it's Nadia Lauro, who's the set designer. And again, you know, Nadia Lauro, she's basically a scenographer, a set designer. But again, the fact we asked her to qualify, let's say, this space, it became an installation. And we used it for various type of proposals. So, you know, this is a way you can use, let's say, the gallery by creating a specific space and connect things together. Of course, you know, there is a lot of performances, as you know, who are just taking place inside the gallery, and you have this confrontation between the works on the walls and the performers in the space. So this is another kind of work we started 2 years ago. This time it's a very old event we have in Pompidou. The name is Video Dance. In fact, you know, we were used to every year to present a selection of video dance because we cannot show everything, you know, about in the dance productions. So we decided to do this. And again, you know, I wanted to bring a little ambiguity in this type of presentation. So what we decided is to ask an artist, a young artist, her name is Chloé Kenom, to make an installation. So it's what you see here with the rugs, and people can see it and use the installation like regular banks, you know. And we present the videos on a huge scale, which is 8 meters by 6. And what I like with this is that, of course, you know, the documentary dimension of the video is still there, but the fact we present the video in a gallery, you know, the visual dimension also is revealed, is very strong. And I want to show you this. For example, you know, this was the first year, sorry. Yeah, the first year, you know, we didn't have the rugs. This is a dance piece, you know, we present it, but, you know, showing it in the gallery this way, you know, again, people were really struck by the visual art dimension of these videos, which were not created as video art, but just as videos of a dance piece. So again, you know, I insist on that, you know, we try as much as we can to experience things. I would not say that we work for the art history, but Maybe yes, we don't know. But the status of the work, you know, is something which is very, very, very interests me a lot, let's say. What else? Voila, and with video dance, you know, we created the space with the installation of Chloé Kenom. Of course, you know, we had the screenings, and also, you know, all the weekends we had this type of performances, Alessandro Schiavoni, and so on. What you see there, it's a very famous piece of Jérôme Bel, Cédric Andrieux, and what is very interesting for me, again, in this relation I can get with the artist, is usually Cédric Andrieux, the piece, is presented in theaters in very formal way, and on purpose, you know. It was presented at the Opera in Paris and in many theaters, you know. And we said with Jérôme, why do we not try to do a gallery performance with this? And finally, you know, we tested it together, and is quite satisfied with that, and is ready to do it again. So for me, it's really interesting to follow this type of relation and evolution. And Jérôme is very smart, you know, so he knows that this, like the second life of this piece. So this is something, you know, we spoke a lot with Laurence and previously, so it's retrospective. So this is a view of the Centre Pompidou, and what I mentioned previously, you know, because as a curator, as a programmer, we always have to face, you know, practical issues. And I would say even that sometimes it's the main duty we have to deal with. And in this case, you know, we really wanted to have this project in Centre Pompidou, but it was included in a group show, so which is different with your proposal, Laurence, and that was really interesting, like the story about the two, you know, the big mask, which couldn't be in the parcours of the exhibition because it's not really a piece of work. This time, you know, the exhibition was very big. We had a lot of works, artworks to exhibit, to hang, and there was this huge space with nothing, just for the dancers and the artworks of the exhibition retrospective to be shown. And I remember that always, you know, the people were coming and saying, Serge, can you ask Xavier if we could not put a painting here or a painting there, because we have a lack of walls to show everything. And I said, I cannot ask that to Xavier. I know the answer. It will be no, you know. And we had so many, but I know Xavier, you know, would have preferred to have no works around. For example, what you see here, you know, was bothering him. For the audience, it's different. But I would say that the experience, you know, audience had at Tapies was different than the one they had at Pompidou. And I said, I remember that to Xavier. I said, take it like another type of experience. But you know, Xavier, it was... So, you know, we used the same photo. And just to finish up with my presentation, I want to show you this. So, you know, there is works which are really made for galleries coming from performing arts. So we had a few examples. This time it's a bit different because what we will show, it was created at Wils in Brussels, and how to say, it will last the time of an exhibition in terms of daily presentation, from let's say from 11 till 8, running like this. But the piece is coming from a stage performance, in fact Vortex, which was created 2 years ago, I think, and presented at Théâtre de la Ville in Paris. And from this piece, you know, Anne-Theresa wanted to make a gallery performance, but she wanted this performance to be approached like an exhibition. So it's very different than the work of Xavier, but it's a way to present and think about the notion of exhibiting in a museum. So the piece was presented at the Wils in Brussels. It will be in Paris, and of course, you know, she wants the Tate and the MoMA to, of course, to present it. It's something which interests me a lot because, of course, the dancers are beautiful, and they came on stage at Pompidou, not with Anne-Theresa, but with Thomas Howard, who worked a lot with Anne-Theresa. But it's also because the musicians, you know, are performing. And it's really something, it's Ictus Ensemble, you know, a very good ensemble from Brussels. And what I like in this piece, you know, in the galleries, they really perform, you know, so they are not just staying and playing, but, you know, they move the piano, they do a lot of actions while they perform a very beautiful score, which is Griset, you know, Bernard Griset. And it's very skillful, and what I like also at Pompidou is that we will be in the part of the gallery which is opened to, which is in connection with the street, so people will be able to see from the outside, and it's something Anne-Theresa was very excited about. So basically, this is what I wanted to tell you. So now, if you want us to talk a little bit about this, feel free.
Thanks a lot, Serge. It's a pleasure. I think we heard a lot of interesting theoretical positions today, as well as some different artistic and curatorial practices as well, especially in the context of the relation between the visual arts and performing arts. So what I'd like to do now is to open up the session to the audience, to you, and to ask you if you've any questions to Serge, so to engage in a dialogue right now. Are there any questions you'd like to ask now?
I take this one. I was just wondering, do you have some conflicts? Because it's interesting, you have a quite organic way how you're approaching the artist, you're talking about attention. So it's another way as you normally do in a big museum or in the concept, which is mostly conceptualized or is a certain kind of thematic frame. And do you have kind of frictions about your work, or how do you try to deal with the issue that probably an exhibition has probably a more conceptual frame, and your works you're working with or you're producing are developing from the artist side. So I'm quite interested in this dialogue.
In fact, you know, I think that at Pompidou there is some people, like I was mentioning Mr. Bernard Blisten, you know, it's like there is different kind of curators, I would say. in fact, you know, you have curators, you know, making exhibitions, and I respect that, of course, you know, because I love to go to a regular, let's say, exhibition. And there is another kind of curators, you know, who are not talking about contemporary art, but let's say contemporary creation. And from that starting point, you know, you can deal with whatever type of works. After, you know, it's a matter of, as I said, you know, to be pragmatic in terms of presentation and respect, you know, the wishes of the artist, and also, let's say, the comprehension also of the audience, because we work for the artist. We are very dedicated to creators, but our duty also is to be connected to the audience. And for me, it's a very, very important issue, you know, to engage people in through artworks, in how to say, to feed themselves, and not being exactly the same after. You know, it's very important for me. I don't know if I answered to your question, but the frictions, you know, if you feel it doesn't match with this one, you go to another one, you know. I don't know exactly.
1,000.
Yes, no, not only. No, but it's true that, in fact, you know, at Pompidou, the contemporary issues, you know, are also taken in charge by few people. So we share a lot. No, the only frictions we can have, and it's important, you know, it's money issues and technical issues. This is the main story. Otherwise, you know, in our heads, we always find a way to agree. But after, you know, for example, you know, we had a very big exhibition at Pompidou under the name of Danser sa vie, Dance Your Life. And it was almost impossible to have real performance in that exhibition. Why? Because, you know, they wanted to, and they had Tino Sehgal doing the solo, and it was such an issue to have just this in the gallery, and they don't keep money for performance. It's what I said previously. Performance, you know, sometimes for some curators, live art, performing art curators, it's like the cherry on the cake. It's not, you know, such an issue for which, you know, they really keep a means to do it. For example, since we were talking about Tino Sehgal, this is something really incredible, because he had this beautiful piece, you know, shown at Marianne Goodman in Paris and after in Avignon, and still Bernard Blisten, I mentioned him because I respect him a lot, succeed in having the Centre Pompidou purchasing the piece, you know. And so now we have the piece in the collection, but we never showed it. Because to show it, you know, you need to pay these dancers or actors, let's say, and since Tino wants the piece shown on the duration of an exhibition, they don't want to afford, they cannot afford to present it, or they decide to not put the money in this. You see what I mean? And at the same time, I'm quite surprised, because, for example, when you buy a James Turrell piece, you buy just a plan floor, sketches, and if you want to show it, you know, you have to produce it, even if you purchase it. So, you know, it's, y a un clivage, but, you know, we can, voilà.
I'm sorry, I will do that, but maybe Manuel can come back, because one of the spaces that for me are always a mystery in the Centre Pompidou are the halls, because you have the big hall of the entrance that could be a great stage, and the underground when they are the theater and so on. This is also sometimes there are some installation over there, and also the how do you say, the court in front of Centre Pompidou. So there are different stage places for me that could be occupied.
Yes.
And they did the piece in the hall, no?
Yes.
When the Nouveau Festival. So in terms of the circulation of audiences and the possibility where you can act as a programmer, I think those spaces. The other thing that's bugging me, and I don't know what to do with that, but nevertheless I share with you, is the fact that documents become artworks. And I have nothing against that, except that I don't want to use the fact that documents are to be used, are to be researched, and not treated like scarcity. I mean, this is a bit something that's happening in terms of that the fact that the museum has the possibility, or any institutional contracts have the possibility to make something less available because it acquires a status of protection, of, you know, a moment it's become an artwork, you have a set of rules and norms to ask for that. Meanwhile, I can download the file because it's just, you know, this kind. So I don't know if you think of the consequence of your gesture to take a document and to make it into an artwork, because maybe it will be less accessible as it was before, or maybe it's not the wrong question.
You imagine, Lawrence, when I said what I said, I'm a bit provocative, you know, and you imagine that I'm very conscious of what you said. And if I spoke like this, it was a bit on purpose, because, in fact, you know, of course, in the case of shortology, okay, we decided to make a video with the artist. Okay, the artist, you know, is satisfied about the result, his decision, and after, you know, if Bernard, again him, you know, wants to bring this piece in the collection of Centre Pompidou, why not? When I was mentioning what I said, you know, I'm not saying that a documentary on dance can become an art piece. Okay, it's not my goal, you know, it's just that I want people to approach productions differently in different contexts. And it's very, very interesting for me to see that emphasizing the format of a piece, of a video, can bring people watching differently. But it's still a documentary. And you know, I showed you a still image which was like a visual art production, but if you could see the entire movie, there is no doubt it's a dance piece. You see what I mean? And now, to talk about this issue about Centre Pompidou and its possibilities which are not used, and it's too bad you don't use this and that, you have such a potential and so on. Manuel, you will be able to talk about that. And again, you know, in your case, it was your decision. I made a lot of experiences on the piazza. You know the money situation, and I'm sorry about to be so trivial, but it's like this. And to keep up with the program, you know, I spoke about, I had to make choices. I had to make choices, because in fact, you know, we had Pierre-Henri, the composer, big early 2000, making a concert there, and we had a lot of people, but it's so expensive to use the piazza. Otherwise, if you do something, you know, very light, it makes no difference for people with the rest of things which happens on the piazza. You see what I mean? So I experienced that one time, you know. I asked dancers to do things on the piazza, and I wasn't satisfied because people took it just like a regular, spontaneous thing, and I didn't like that. And I would say that in your case, guys, it was very controversial, your proposal at Pompidou, because first of all, you know, Bernard asked me if you could perform in the galleries, and I said, oh my God, you know, you already want to hang things on Xavier's walls, and now you want to have this performance beside its one. It's going to be so confusing, you know. It's impossible to do that. And so there is the forum, and after I'll let you talk about that. And there is the forum. Alors the forum, again, it's a matter of restriction. Level 0. You cannot do anything there. Because in fact, you know, it's like la salle des pas perdus of Centre Pompidou, to go to the bookshop, to go to the store, and to get to the rest of the building. So you cannot do anything there. But downstairs, look well, we do a lot of things. But maybe you can react to what I said and your choice of the forum.
Which question should I answer first? Maybe the documentation and the economy, because I think that's also important, because, you know, like we were talking about how you can, if you can transform institutions, and I think it comes down to economy a lot. And it's a very important question on what you place value on. So obviously what he mentioned, but also what you point out, of course, if you do a documentation and you exhibit a video, it's cheap, yeah? You can do it ongoing, yeah? You can show the piece of Jérôme or so on. It doesn't require these resources, which do cost money, yeah? On the other hand, it is a fight, and if you want to challenge these institution limitations, probably you have to kind of try to put up a fight. So, because I think that like you mentioned, but for example, like when we were there, just before us, there was the Pierre Huyghe exhibition. Yeah, this, I mean, it also costs a lot of money. It costs like also works, objects, let's say. Insurance is expensive. You know, the installation of certain works is quite expensive. So, in a way, there is a certain hierarchy. Yeah? So, which if you want to have in your collection works that are, you know, let's say live works, you know, then of course it's interesting how you can also think, okay, maybe you use resources also for that kind of work, you know, you displace it in a way, yeah. So you kind of give it an equal status in a way in this hierarchy, you know. So the problem of just showing documentation, and that's why we also don't want to do it, is because of that, because it doesn't challenge at all the economy, you know, inside. It's very convenient, of course, to show it as a video because it costs nothing, you know, basically. Okay, so this is the economy question, and then the space. I mean, this more particular issue of that Nouveau Festival. I don't know if it's so interesting for everyone, but. Yeah, so we arrived there, and then we were informed what the available spaces are. Yeah, it was this Galerie Sud mainly for the festival, and of course the theater. And then the spaces were already kind of assigned to, like, one was for Xavier, and the rest were already quite stuffed with a lot of videos. So we didn't even ask for that to be in that space because we thought it's too cramped. It's too. It would be too, how do you say, like a cacophony somehow, you know, so it doesn't really work. Okay, why it was like that and why it was already assigned the space, okay, it's another question. And then we said, okay, what other space can we use, yeah? And this had the choice of the forum, which is a very difficult place because somehow the gallery protects you, yeah? Protects somehow, it's more protected, the work, in a certain way because it gives this frame, yeah? So in the forum, which is an interesting space because it's not really a public space, it's not outside, but it's a semi-public space because people are allowed to enter and roam about, but they don't yet pay tickets. And we thought this space was interesting in a relationship to the curatorial concept of that edition of the Nouveau Festival, which was reminiscence, oblivion, and so on. So like you know, yeah, oblivion, forgetting, reminiscence, and so on. And then we started, as we wanted to do it on the institution of Pompidou, like somehow the work was dealing with that history. We read a lot about the history of the making of the Pompidou, you know, which was bigger than life. It was very political. It involved the president of the republic and a lot of criticism towards it, yeah, but also a lot of appraisal. And one interesting thing is that it was always attacked as being a supermarché de la culture. They were saying it's a supermarket of culture. You know, let's say the detractors and the people which were unhappy with it. And then it was the architects which were kind of young and quite leftist, and actually they had this whole idea of how they want to create a sort of meeting like a public space in a way. Of transparent, you know, with the structure visible and so on, and circulating, and you know. So we thought that this tension between it being accused that it's a supermarket, you know, and things are easily consumed and so on, would be interesting. There would be a tension in this forum, you know, between the idea of representing a collection there in a space that is fragile, you know, like it's some people just pass, they don't even notice you, some stop, what is that, and so on. And in regard to the history of the institution, you know. And there was one more thing, sorry, I'm talking too long again, which was nice. There was this big article by Baudrillard, who was like somehow smashing a Pompidou idea, you know. And this was also bringing something very interesting conceptually, we thought, because on one hand, the architects, I think, read quite well the times, the changing, the fact that people, you know, they extended. There was something also quite democratic. That's the word, you know. They extended the opening hours until 10 in the evening, so that people working could also. So it was a more inclusive space. And at the same time, Baudrillard was saying like, oh, you know, this is not how you can show culture in this masses, like the masses cannot assimilate it, you know. And there was also all this idea of that it's too populistic and somehow, you know. So we thought that it's interesting to work with this tension in the forum, but also the other spaces were not available. This is also true.
Are there any more questions from the audience right now? More comments or remarks? Anyone? Okay, then I guess we conclude the session. Thanks a lot, Serge Laurent. Thanks for being here. Thanks for attending.